So this side is what you're seeing, and that's the prep side. Yeah, I'm going to talk real low because I'm cool like that.
I'm going to have to drop my voice an octave. There you go.
I'm Sam Maxon, a.k.a. Slammin' Sam. I'm a DJ, actor, philanthropist, self-proclaimed Renaissance man. When I'm not in the studio, I'm diving into my hobbies and exploring many interests. With that comes my personal uncensored insights on anything and everything. Are you ready for it? This is The Slam Show.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to this special Labor Day edition of The Slam Show for September 5th, 2016. I am your host, Slammin' Sam, coming at you. And, man, I am just so excited about this program because the two guests that are on have so much to offer and are connected with me on all levels. One from way back in the day, and one recently just being a good friend of mine. And it's just a development of just being able to have good energies, because put it to you this way, you got to have good people around you consistently, because without that, it's going to be a struggle in life. And I'm very blessed to have these two individuals here, I could say, are good friends, and I can't wait to hear their stories and get this show all kicked off in a great and positive way. If you haven't done so, be sure to follow me on Snapchat, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff, under I Am Slammin' with 2 M's. And as far as what I'll be doing on the DJ end, a couple things. First off, the broadcasting on Facebook Live, the Mix Show, might be on Thursday night, roughly around 9 o'clock. Be sure to tune in on my timeline on Facebook and social media to make sure that that's absolutely correct. A lot of you guys are assuming Friday is the consistent night. It is not. It varies depending on my mood and my availability, because sometimes I'll have a gig, studio session, so I have to work around that. So just check on social media for my next Facebook Live Mix Show broadcast. And I do take requests depending on if it makes sense, because as G knows it, you got to be around that BPM. If it's too slow and you're asking for something fast, I can't fucking do it unless I just throw it in and just make you happy. So make sure the requests are around the same beats per minute, and the likelihood of me getting it in is pretty damn high, especially if it's a song I like personally. All right, this coming Saturday on September 10th over at Church Ward Pub, 1515 Park Street over in Alameda. I'll be in the mix all night long, ladies and gentlemen, so be sure to come out, mention my name at the door, and there is no admission fee, guys and girls. And be sure to come up and say hi. Hey, I'm just a cool dude. I love to interact, and it's going to be a good time. Church Ward Pub this Saturday, September 10th. And I hope you two will try to make it. Yeah, give me the definite nod.
Good,
yeah, spread the word. Spread the word.
Right.
Exactly. So, yeah, that's pretty much sums it on my part in terms of my happenings. And let's just roll right into our special guests in the house. First off, I will introduce the first gentleman. This guy, he has put together such a incredible resume of accomplishments. I don't know where to start, because he's a Renaissance guy, but on a very high academic end, and he's doing a lot of great things here in the city of Oakland. We used to DJ together back in the day, junior high, high school,
right.
All that stuff.
Hillview.
Props out to Hillview.
That's right.
And I can't wait to dive into all of his endeavors and all what he's been doing for the community. Let's have a big round of applause for G. Reyes, everyone.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, bro, for coming through. And you know what's funny? Back in the day, Hillview Junior High was called the Trojans.
That's right.
And you know they changed the name, right?
No way.
Yeah.
They got laughed at too much?
I don't know what the real reason is. Maybe someone could chime in. But they're now called the Warriors.
Oh, interesting.
Do you think there might be maybe a connection to the protective male product because
I
there
don't-
could be some joking around. Back in the day, we weren't freaking sick like that.
Yeah.
We were just kids. Now, as we talked about, this motherfucking thing that we have is too much information. So these 12-year-olds are already thinking sexually about it. And maybe there was a pun. I don't know. What's your thoughts on it?
I don't. I didn't even know that they had changed it. I mean, when you mentioned the Trojans, I had forgotten that was the mascot. But right when you said that, I instantly thought of condoms. So,
me too,
I mean, I understand like the idea of the Trojans. From whatever war that was.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Exactly.
But we don't think about that anymore. So I guess if they just didn't want to be ridiculed, then okay, change it up.
I guess. And I apologize, ladies and gentlemen. Usually I do a full introduction of the co-hosting and the guest staff, and I need to bring in the main man that happens to come through when needed. He's a Renaissance filmmaker, has done a lot of stuff with the community as well. Let's have a big round of applause for Bo Campbell, everyone. Sorry, Bo. I
No
usually
worries,
just
man.
go down the list. You know what it is? It's because I'm so comfortable with you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And it's not like you're a ghost and I ignored you. It's just because I know you're just easygoing.
Yeah.
And you have your studio audience, wifey in the house, April. We got to give shouts out to her. Not
She's
to
over
leave
there
out.
playing her farm game or something like that.
She playing what?
She's addicted to some farm game that she's been playing. I don't know.
The farm
Okay,
game,
I'm
huh?
sorry, I shouldn't
There you
call her
go. And I don't want to leave out our main board guy, my assistant, my super psychic, Rock Rage, in the house. Give yourself a round of applause there, Rock Rage, please. Thank you. So, getting back to you, Gerald. G. Yeah.
Either
Fuck
way.
it. Everyone already knows, man. I can't stay on script when it comes down to your nickname.
It's all good. Gerald is an intimate name, and so.
think so?
I mean, in the sense
Like
that
Gerald Levert, Casanova.
No.
True?
Well, maybe. I mean, but I think like relationally, like folks like my mom, my grandma, my family members, really close friends, folks who know me from back in the day, they call me Gerald. And
Yeah.
So
So I'm privileged
Yeah,
or
no
like
doubt.
honored to.
no, yeah, of course you can, right? but so it just carries that kind of like closer emotional attachment to me.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So G kind of like keeps it on a professional level, and there's nothing out of that. It's just more out there.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I started getting it. I got that in high school. I think Ed Castillo was one of the first people to.
Good old Ed. What's up,
Yeah,
Ed?
I think he was one of the first people to call me G, and it just kind of stuck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And it's always connected with that whole G. What's up? You're an OG, and the whole hip hop connection. So
And
yeah.
I am an OG.
Yeah. Shh. We're
My age is really my.
we're all 25, ladies and gentlemen. So let's get into everything that you're doing for the community, and let's start from way back. How did you get involved, knowing that you wanted to? Because you obviously lived in Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
When did you move over here in Oakland, and when did you decide, hey, I'm going to try to make a difference?
Good question. I think when I went off to undergraduate in Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo, for the first time in my life, I had connected with like a narrative of my story, my history, that created an indignation from within me that made me say, like, why haven't I learned this before? And why has my identity been cultivated in a way to make me move further away than who I'm supposed to be? And so that started happening when I was at Cal Poly. And at that time, I was an engineering major and so forth. And then, my mom was like, no, you're not going to go to Cal Poly and not be an engineer and everything like that. So I stuck with it. I almost split and tried to, do something else, something more in liberal arts like speech communications or even pre-law and so forth.
So the engineer part, that wasn't your main passion. It was more mom said, you got to
Yeah.
do it. We're
Mom,
paying for
dad.
everything.
Yep.
How'd you feel about that? Like knowing that you want to make them happy, but at the same time, it was for your own good.
Well, I was still trying to find my way still. And so I didn't know exactly what I was going to do until I started to learn about Filipino history. And I got connected with some conscious folks and everything like that. And then even just like my cultural roots just through like traditional dance and all that. And feeling empowered that way, but I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I knew that I wasn't wanting to be in school forever. And so I already gone like a couple of years, and I said, well, I might as well finish with something that's good enough in terms of like, it's a hybrid of me being a communicator, me, being able to like affect change in like in a technical way. And so I finished with that, and then I eventually went into like small startup companies that were focused on medical devices and so forth. And I did that for a little while, but like what we were talking about earlier, I wasn't like passionate about it. And so what I had started doing in college, I started doing spoken word poetry more, a little bit of MCing and all that kind of stuff, and performing and even dancing and all that kind of stuff.
I saw some videos on that.
No way.
Where you're doing the spoken word stuff.
Oh, well, as a more adult, right?
Yes.
Yeah. But I got my taste when I was in as an undergraduate, and then when I finished, I love that, right?
Right.
And so
let's jump onto that so our viewers, okay, what's spoken word? Some people think it's like a certain type of poetry, rap thing. What is the exact definition of spoken word?
Well, I think spoken word is short for like spoken word poetry, and the idea of just poetry in general. I think there's been it's been distinguished from like poetry on the page versus like poetry that's meant to be spoken out loud and so forth. And I think just more, but like all poetry really, can be spoken out loud. So I don't know why they wanted to just distinguish it that way. But I think what folks specifically wanted to do is spoken word poetry is name something that was poetic, but done in a way that was spoke to people. So the audience was more about people as opposed to like the world of things that could be on poetry for the page. And so that's what resonated with me, is like the ability to be able to connect with the masses in a way that could provoke thought, in a way that could like build solidarity, in a way that could like inspire folks.
Gotcha. Because the whole spoken word thing, I've seen a few performances, and sometimes it could be captivating, and you're like, man, that's really like deep. And sometimes it could kind of stray and kind of like, it makes you kind of like, what the fuck did you just say or whatever, and you have to kind of pull back a little to kind of absorb it into a certain way. Do you find that all spoken words are easy for you to kind of take in, or do you feel like, okay, some feel that they're saying the message, but it's not being conveyed correctly? What's your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I think spoken word, it's like any genre of something to communicate with people, like whether it's a novel, whether it's a song, and so forth.
Or
like,
a film.
Or a film, right? Like not everything connects with everybody.
Correct.
And
because he does like hardcore horror stuff. Like
sometimes. I've become known for that, but just only sometimes.
All right.
But I think, you're going on the right track, right? Like sometimes, like that doesn't communicate to a lot of people. Like I've had people like, oh, I really liked your films before, but now you're like, you kind of showing me some stuff that I don't like to see, and it's like, and I'll just tell them, I just understand that, and I don't take it personally. It's just not your thing. I was experimenting with it. I don't even necessarily like it sometimes. Really. I'm like, you got to dabble. So you sometimes you get up there, you do your word, and you may not even entirely like right. I mean, it's hit and miss sometimes, right?
Well,
like, it comes out better than other times.
As artists, we're developing our voice, right?
Yeah.
Like, and so like we experiment to try to get closer to us and so forth. And so like I think just as a spoken word poet or a writer or whatever, just even as an educator, is my earlier work, may have had like a lot of the basic elements of my essence as a person. And some experimental things might have fallen off just because like, that didn't fit that well with me. Maybe at the time, maybe it was something I was trying out and so forth. Or I developed more skills. I developed more consciousness. I refined myself as a in my style, and so forth. And so like, like more novice or earlier poets and everything like that, they'll have kind of a style that sounds like the tropes of spoken word poetry. They'll talk a little bit fast, then they go up and down, and sometimes you want to talk like this, and so you'll hear some of that, and the substance is something that folks are trying to work on.
Exactly.
Just like a song, right? Am I gonna display some lyrical finesse and not really say a whole lot? am I gonna dig into something deep?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Exactly, and that's where you have to stay true to that and not deviate into whatever's trendy, especially what we were talking about on the pre-show, the whole mumble rap thing that's going on. Oh, let's not get started with that, gentlemen. But it's about staying true to the roots, being
Right.
able to stay with that message. And as you were saying, sometimes the intonation of spoken word individuals, it goes high and low. Sometimes it could be pulled back. It could be aggressive.
Right.
And I remember watching one on YouTube, and homeboy, he was saying some really intense stuff, but then he got more and more intense, and it was like almost for show, but there wasn't anything like, there was no malice behind it, but it was like he was getting straight to the point, deeper and deeper. Do you feel that your spoken word abilities now have gone to the point where you can go pretty far into it and not feel like you're threatening in terms of your tone and still get the message out to everyone?
Yes. I mean, there's this poet, who's, rest in peace, June Jordan. She said poetry is about precision. And for me, is each word and how it sounds should be intentional. Now, how do you do that and not be contrived and so forth? So you have to really know your words. You have to know what you're really trying to say.
Yeah.
And if you do that, then you can still be in the moment and emotional with it, but it's within a control where you know that in a certain point, you don't want to yell at this point. Maybe you want to whisper here. You want to keep it low. You want to say this part slower. You know, maybe this one is faster because you're trying to build up an intensity and so forth. And maybe you don't have to rehearse it exactly the same time or same way every time, but you know the spirit of it because that's what the message is trying to convey.
Gotcha. And
Right.
it's coming from a real sincere place.
That's right. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And I think you had mentioned that you wanted to do a poem for your son. We could do it whenever you want. It's up
Okay.
to you.
Yeah.
Let's go into a little bit more of the discussion points of your endeavors and so forth.
All right.
Now, I know you're a teacher, professor, scholar, all
Yeah.
that good stuff.
a little bit.
That is a big. Those are big shoes to kind of like present, because obviously the youth looks up to you, and they kind of mold themselves around your presentation and so forth. Do you feel you have a big responsibility in terms of being able to make sure that presentation is on a very keen level where G is being professional? Like, for example, you're rolling in here in your Harley, you got the tats going, you got the rugged look. Is it you just saying this is what you can be without having to wear a suit and tie and still be as accomplished, educational wise and so forth, and letting people know, yeah, you could be like me and still be well respected?
No doubt. The question I was pushed to everybody, really, young people and teachers that I'm helping to cultivate into the profession, is who controls the standards of what determines what professional looks like? Who decides what knowledge is? Who decides what's legitimate and so forth? When you start to
Thank you.
question that, then you can really start to examine ways to push that boundary. Now, my ink isn't random. This is the mark of the
Please explain.
yeah, this is the mark of the 4 waves, and what that means is there's a group, what's up, L, who's trying to revive the ancient art of Filipino tattoo. When the Spaniards came into the Philippines, they called us La Isla de los Pintados, right? Like the island of the painted ones.
I like your Tagalog.
I try. It's really rusty. I get it mixed up with Spanish a lot because I speak more Spanish. But anyway, I had to go through a variety of rites of passages to get my ink, and it's done over time. So
really?
as you start reaching certain milestones, then I've added on and so forth. Like my most recent ones are my forearms right here, and I got this one after I finished my PhD, and then 2 after my son successfully survived his surgery where the lower left part of his lung was removed and so forth. And those are big points in my life, and so I went back to get some more of the marks and so forth. But these are like the Harley, the shaved head, the look, whatever that might be. They become supposed identity markers for people. Like, oh, I see how you look, I see what you do, you must be this way and so forth. And I think I've always been a boundary pusher to say, especially for young urban folks, is that Like I might look like your uncle. I might look like your dad or your older brother and so forth. However, like, and I might even sound like them at certain times, but I could also navigate, white academic spaces as well. Not because I'm choosing to assimilate in certain spaces, but I'm choosing the way in which I'm going to be able to navigate those spaces. And if I'm equipped with those tools, then I could push boundaries there as well. And so I think, like, Black and brown kids, here in East Oakland, they connect with me. They're like, gee, you keep it real and all this kind of stuff here. You drop knowledge and whatever. You're a beast and all this kind of stuff, and you inspire me and so forth. Because at the end of the day, like, if they can see themselves in me as well, then they can start to reimagining themselves. Because I think our society historically has demonstrated that it says that certain people should become certain things. Like this dude named Carter G. Woodson, back in the early 1900s, he said, like, the black man is told in every book he reads what he's supposed to become, and so forth. And so, like, when that happens, then we start to believe those things and so forth. And so, like, I've heard countless times in schools, like when a person is doing good in school, or when they're talking a certain way, they're like, "Oh, you're trying to be white." Like, who said that, like, white folks have, like, control over what smart is? Like, no, let's push that, right? Like, what is that supposed to look like and sound like and so forth? And when you understand that more, then you could be your authentic, true self, right? You don't have to be this and lose sense of you. You can still be you, but you're expanding your definition of you. And ultimately, I think that's the endeavor.
That's awesome. That's freaking awesome. And I live my life with that same code.
Right.
And I think that's what you're saying is a testament to that open-mindedness. I mean, growing up and going back to our junior high days, high school days, it was almost like, okay, how can we feel comfortable in terms of who we surround with, our friends, our peers, because that ultimately will go into our adulthood in terms of who we're comfortable with, how we communicate, what type of status, what type of development moving forward. And I always felt, that there was so many, like, things that I wanted to get into in terms of friendships and so forth. And it was across the board. I mean, Pittsburgh High was always multicultural. It was in a lot of ways groundbreaking because you had every ethnic background just cool with each other. We go to the reunions, it's like, bam, it's just everyone's cool. There was no color boundary. And I think being able to know that there are individuals that are out there that share the same beliefs, that system, and you also trying to cultivate that with the groups and kids that you're working with is just a great thing. And I'm just in awe because that's what's important. And I love that you're doing this for the community. Getting back to that, what are the groups that you're involved in, the stuff that's going on that you're trying to affect change with?
I'm involved mostly right now in trying to figure out myself and my identity as an academic in the university space.
Mm-hmm.
I've been teaching in the university space since probably 2008, preparing teachers while I was still getting my doctorate. But now, after I finished my doctorate and then being full-time over at Stanford and then being a visiting scholar over at Mills College, I'm still continuing.
Shouts out to Mills College.
Woo woo, Mills. I'm loving that space, by the way.
That's good.
So hopefully I can get a full-time tenure track position there that's coming up here, but we'll see.
There you go. They're gonna see the show and like, you know what? We're gonna give G that one.
There you go. But I've spent a lot of time really thinking about, like, how do adults learn and so forth, and how can I equip them with not just the skills, but also the critical knowledge and the political clarity to be able to work in our urban schools with urgency, and not recognize the structure of the state in the sense that, like, there are these standards and there are these test scores, and recognize all of those, but a lot of those structures are intended to privilege certain groups of people and marginalize others. And so how do you enter that in a way where you can navigate that, right? And it's not that it's going to be easy, but you have to have clarity in order to figure out like what's your endeavor, what's your purpose and so forth. If you're doing it because you love kids, then I don't know if you're really going to, shift, the conversation that much, right? Because you can love kids and still replicate systems of social reproduction where they get, they might feel like cared by you, but they don't necessarily feel like they're more equipped to navigate the structures of school that might, like Pittsburgh High School, for example. I benefited from it in the sense that at some point I got into like honors classes or whatever, but they tracked people, right? They said like these kids here we're going to be in general classes. These
Correct.
kids here with college prep. These kids over here in honors, and that replicates like our society in the sense like there are classes, and then you can't get out of it. Like I've known people who started to do well in one track but couldn't get out of it because they said you're supposed to be in this one.
Right.
And I think they've since dismantled that and so forth. But that's just an example of how schooling structurally seeks to reproduce the hierarchy in society and so forth. And so so I do a lot of work with teachers. I'm starting to do work with new school leaders about the ways in which they're trying to form their schools. I've worked at a school for a number of years, and so I still have relationships with different schools in Oakland and the Bay in general. And I love working with young people, though right now I'm not working with young people as much. I work with like some of my alumni in different ways because a lot of the folks that I taught when they were teenagers and so forth are now like back in the town and working in schools themselves and really doing some amazing work. So it's beautiful to be working alongside some of them, because ultimately that's what I want. Not just me, but like other folks like me, we want our young people to not feel shame about Oakland, but to realize that Oakland is a place that not just that we call home, but needs us to help it become better. Like we don't need outside forces to come in and really change things here. We need to be able to improve things that's authentically Oakland and so forth. So sure, we should go out, we should go to college, get some experiences somewhere else. But at some point, like know that I'm gonna be here in Oakland, and when my young people are ready to come back home, then come. I'll be here waiting for them and so forth. And ultimately, that's the long haul.
Nice, love it. Now, Oakland. This is your home now.
That's right.
No longer Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
How do you like it?
I've been here for a minute. Like I love it.
How long? 10 years?
No, more than 10 years.
Really?
Yeah, more than 10 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Same place?
No, I lived in the Fruitvale for a little while, and then now I live in the Eastmont-ish area.
Gotcha.
So more deep east and so forth.
You know what's funny is that back in the day, you probably remembered the DJ group that was from Oakland that was associated with The Fuse.
Oh, yeah,
and they're from East Oakland,
Yeah.
Hagenberger in that area.
That's right.
And rest in peace, Daniel Del Rosario. He was the one that got me into his company and helped me out. But yeah, as far as Oakland, it was just whatever happened in terms of whether it's something positive or negative. Oakland presents itself in that way, and you got to take the good and the bad. That's all you could do with Oakland, because in a lot of places there's crime. It's just not as magnified as it is over here. What can you do?
Well, the question is, why is it magnified more? And then who benefits from making that narrative more public and known?
Thank you.
And so forth. And so
It's more like the media. They
Right.
know it's a story.
it is the media, but also what the media does is it gets into the psyche of those who live here and those who don't live here, and they reproduce those ideas as well.
Correct.
So we started to develop an idea of our own communities, like, oh, Oakland is ghetto. Oakland is just all this and all bad, and so we don't have hope. I need to get out of here and so forth. That kind of mentality, until we start being around folks who are demonstrating pride in Oakland and demonstrating a commitment to try to, continue to work towards, a better Oakland. And you have to be, like you said earlier, you surround yourself with beautiful people to do beautiful work and so forth, right? And I'm a firm believer in that. Like, sometimes people are around toxic people. So what's going to happen? You're going to live a toxic life, right? And if you don't, then you truly are an exception, right? but systematically you're in toxic conditions. So it would make sense that you would do toxic things too, right? You don't have to, but it would make sense.
There you go.
But Oakland is beautiful in the sense that like it has so many of like well-grounded folks who are committed to this area, to do good works in the schools, to do work in various activist circles. Arts and activism is really deeply connected as well. You know, the music scene is hot.
That's right.
You know, so there's a lot of amazing things, and the conflicting message is sort of all the the economic change that's been happening with you know, like I don't know, like the face of Oakland looks a little bit different now, a little bit more. Some people call it gentrification, but I think it's more complex. You know what I mean? I mean, I think gentrification is definitely happening as well. But even right here on Broadway, it's starting to look a little different. Like all these different places, like down that way, it looks crazy. You know, it's insane. But so that's doing something too, right?
Gotcha.
And so people have a different view of Oakland depending on where they frequent more.
Yes.
Like, and so like, the Oakland that I'm in is rooted in the community. I live in the hood. I stay in the hood. I work in the hood. And so like, that's where I'm mostly around. But yeah, you might catch me by the lake every so often. You might catch me over here every so often and everything like that. So I know a little bit about that too, but it's not my only knowledge of Oakland. You know what I mean?
Gotcha. Well said. Bo, do you have any questions for G here on any platform level?
Questions regarding Oakland?
Oakland or just his prowess?
Man, well, I'll state an opinion and see if you agree with it.
Yeah.
I think people should stop watching the news. Like,
Oh.
and just because, like it dictates to you what something is supposed to be, and then you go in with that conceived notion that thing is that, and you'll see that because that's what you're looking for. Like if I tell you, that painting over there, butterfly, he sucks. You know what I mean? I don't honestly think that. I hope it's not your painting. But I'm just saying, if I tell you that, then you're gonna go in thinking, why does that painting suck? You're gonna see why it sucks, and it'll suck to you. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think that the news is kind of like got this narrative that it's telling that Oakland is a dangerous place to be, and there be monsters. You know what I mean? Don't go in there. Like all the self-respecting people are over here, and that kind of thing. And it's a town just like any other. Like you go to. I mean, of course, there's different crime rates, different areas, right? But I think the certain amount of that is like a self-fulfilling prophecy that, like, it's kind of like it's all programmed, like to put everything there. Like, if you're the guy who's like watching the news and you're like, oh yeah, if I want to be hard, I want to go there. Then you're gonna go there, and then you get that guy who wants to be hard, and it's so on. You know what I mean? And I don't know. It's just so complicated. It's hard to describe. But I guess. Bottom line, I think people should just stop watching the news and start looking outside. No, for
Agreed.
real. Like, look around you, Like,
Agreed.
It's just constantly like if you watch it, it's telling you these things are happening, and then if you really look at the real world around you, it's not really happening. Like there's I'm starting to stray a little bit, but you get it.
No, you're right. I mean, the news, just as media in general, they're ideological institutions, so they're pushing. Their intent is to push an ideological belief, and oftentimes those ideologies are normalized, so we don't even realize what they're trying to do. We just accept them as normal, and that's the effect of what an institution like that is supposed to be doing. And so it would make sense to, if there are going to be news channels, how can we be critical consumers of that, or how can we push that even further by like seizing control of those channels to provide a much more complex perspective of like communities and so forth. And and so like do I really have to listen to like smaller radio stations just to hear something a little bit more progressive? Can I get something in the mainstream channel? Probably not, because the mainstream channels have a motivation, right? And so unfortunately that's the reality of that. But in terms of Oakland and so forth, like, it has a history of segregation in the sense, like, background, World War II is that there was something called redlining that said, like, someone literally took a red pen and marked out places in Oakland that was going to have investment and non-investment. And so areas that had non-investment, well, obviously there's going to be higher poverty there. And when people are concentrated in areas where there's higher poverty, it's difficult. How do you survive? And sometimes it is, cutthroat and so forth. And sometimes it is like, well, this is the best I can do. There's nothing else around me. And so that's also a systematic endeavor to make sure that some people are going to be in a certain pocket, right?
Makes a lot of sense.
But it is complex.
You hear about a guy who was born and raised in Beverly Hills, right? And he's like knocking over liquor stores. And you're like, that sounds weird, right? Because why would he do that? The only reason he could possibly be doing that is just some psycho who wants to do that. But like, if you have somebody in a neighborhood where that's their only way to get some food or get some money, you know what I'm saying, then the situation is what creates that, not the person and not the people. It's not like some weird motivation that they just came up with out of nowhere. It's like the situation has put them there, right? And so, actually, the one I was telling you, remember I told you my short film won an award at the. I'm not going to self-plug here, but
no, plug away, plug away.
It just won Best Narrative at San Francisco Comic Con.
Yes.
Anti-Hero.
Congratulations! Let's have a round of applause for Best Narrative.
And actually, the guy who starred in it, his birthday is today, so shout out to Lex, LBR Films. But anyway, that film I made inspired by that, by a guy who's trying to get like milk for his kid's cereal, and he's put in a situation where he's like has to choose, like, do I disappoint my kid, or do I just do what I got to do to get some money and get some milk for him? You know what I mean? And it becomes like this whole situation where ultimately you kind of see that he is a good guy. But
I think I saw that. I
you?
saw one of the screenings. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
it's a good film, G. You
good,
gotta check it
nice.
out.
Yeah.
It's he did it, and that was pretty good, because there was a choice. There was a moral choice that had to be made. Interesting.
What's the name of it again?
Anti-Hero.
Anti-Hero.
Yeah, it's on YouTube.
Okay.
If you look up on Mighty Race Media's channel.
There you go.
right on.
It's
Yeah.
free and everything.
Yeah, it's free.
G's like, man, I
Anti-Hero.
can't wait till I
Yeah,
get
it's
home.
I think it's
Bam.
like all likes and no dislikes right now, I think.
Oh, word.
Unless, watch, somebody's going to go thumb it down. That's messed up.
I'll
Don't
thumb
do
it down
that.
just to fuck with you.
Well, speaking of like critical media, like I use media a lot, and as an educator, and so I'm always on the lookout for something that's provoking thought and so
Yeah.
forth. So I'm gonna definitely check that out.
Okay.
Anti-Hero.
All right, cool. Yeah.
That's awesome. And see, just to add on to what you were saying, G, in terms of how our society just is programmed to have this very systematic way of thinking, it's really sad, because we have to realize that it is a program that we're trying to kind of stick with because it is so-called the norm. For example, I've been really diving into what they call on YouTube van dwellers, where people live out of their cars, their minivans, campers, whatever, and they do these short stories on their adventures and stuff like that. And a lot of them share the same freaking views as far as what society wants us to be. They point out is like, okay, I have a good job, but I freaking work to pay off my rent, pay off all these possessions for what? And I have really nothing to represent and breathe off. And they just said, fuck it, I'm just going to go ahead and travel, check out new places, enjoy my life, and take that approach. And it just seems like it makes so much sense.
Yeah, I'm not mad at that.
Exactly. So I'll send you some links on that as well. And you're talking about range from someone that's being 21 to much older, and they're just experiencing life. And it's like, wow. When did all of a sudden you have to have a house? When did you all of a sudden have to be married with X amount of kids and have to work 9 to 5 until you get retirement, Social Security, and call it quits? When did that have to be the accepted norm? And by golly, when you have people just making stuff happen like that, I love it. It's just I'm just applauding all the way that that's the way to go about life.
Yeah, well, that's the myth of America, right? Like in the 1920s, that myth started being put out there, like this is what you should aspire to, and so that's really strong. And so forth. And then people who do that are looked at as deviants, and so that's just the kind of thing we need to continue to push. Otherwise, we're going to stay in these boxes.
Yeah, well said. Well, Gerald, as far as like goals that are either short-term or long-term, what do you have on the table for yourself and the community?
I think probably in the next 5 years, I'll come back to working more with Bay Area teachers. With Stanford, I work with teachers across the country and so forth. And that's cool. You know, I work in like urban communities like Watts in South Central LA. What's up?
Wow,
Yeah,
really?
yeah.
Straight out of Compton.
Yeah, well, Watts, close to Compton, for sure, right? And then and,
You take a trip on your Harley all the way there?
I thought about it the last time, but I was like, but I had to bring all these materials for like teachers and everything. So
There
like,
you
no,
go.
I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah, Enterprise rent a car. Here I come.
Yeah, exactly. So I had to fly on down. But I love doing deep work in the local community. So hopefully I can come back and work as a professor again locally, really close. Work with urban teachers in the local area. Hopefully I can hustle a deal with a local school to teach like one class, to still work with high school students, just so I can have one foot in that door as well and continue to sharpen my own tools and so forth. But also act as a model both for teachers I'm helping to prepare or school leaders I'm helping to prepare and that school itself and the young people there. And then maybe start a center either at the university, like a center for like or be a part of a center that's already there, something about like urban education and so forth. But ultimately, I like to figure out what would it look like to be to run like a teacher preparation and a school leader preparation institute that's outside of a university, and be less like contained by sort of the egos in university settings and so forth.
Sure.
And really figure out how to pipeline urban people into urban schools. Like, how do we get young people who live right here in a town of Berkeley or San Francisco, wherever that might be, to pipeline back into their communities as educators who know the community. And so ultimately that's what I'm trying to figure out in the longer haul.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then maybe every so often, like make some music and, do some jujitsu and, just hang out in the backyard with good folks.
Oh, man.
Right.
Gee, you have so much of a volume of things we could talk about. It could be like a dozen shows, and we still haven't even touched on all the interesting things that you do. It's fantastic. It's fantastic.
It's good. It's a process.
Exactly. Let's go ahead and switch gears real quick. We're going to go over to Bo and get a little bit of his insight. And, G, you could play co-host on this role and tap into his brain. Yeah. Because obviously Bo does a lot of independent film work. I've been involved with some of the projects myself. And just give us a rundown of all the accomplishments, whether it's extra work, working with freaking, what's his face, Jason Bourne, what's his name?
Oh, Matt Damon.
Matt Damon, yeah. His name escapes me. But yeah, talk about your library work.
Oh, okay.
And speaking to the mic a little bit, just raise
it.
Yeah, because you're talking real low, real distant.
I have a very soft voice. Sorry, ladies, I didn't mean to excite you. But no,
I don't think April liked that comment at all, man. She's like,
she knows it happens. She's seen them falling out.
Whoa.
As far as that one, like Jason Bourne, I mean, I was PA on paper, but really what I was doing, it was kind of fun, man. We were out there for the whole month. April was there too, as a matter of fact. We were there for the whole month of January, closed down the whole Las Vegas Strip, and we were like, coordinating the background, the foot traffic to make sure they don't step in front of cars, and also so that they can stay in character and be shocked by the cars actually colliding and crashing into each other, landing on top of each other. They had I can talk about it because the movie's out now. They had a plow. They had this armored car with like a plow on the front that sent like 12 cars flying in the air, and I was like the closest guy aside from the stunt people to it, because I was like if you look at the movie, the shot they used, I was in front of that camera, but they were using like this lens that didn't see me, right? But I was standing like, if the camera's here, out in the air, and then there's the collision. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
It was like.
Do you know exactly like the exact time on the DVD? Because I will zoom into that.
It's not out on DVD yet.
Well, on the bootleg.
It just left theaters, but on the bootleg it would be about $121. I have no idea. But it was fun though, dude. Like it like looked so good in life. I don't think they need to do anything to change it. Just like send that to the theater, But and it was cool because like in the setup, they did some tests in LA first. Obviously they got to test this before they do it on the Strip, right? But the cars flew like way too far. Like flew like 20 feet or something and hit like walls and stuff. And they're like, oh, okay, well we can't have it doing that to the casinos. So they actually like ran a chain underneath and like chained all the cars together. So that when the plow goes through, it's like the cars go, but they don't go,
all the
far.
way. Yeah.
But it looked dope, man. It was amazing. Yeah. But anyway, but yeah. Oh, the coolest thing that happened on that, I'll tell you a little anecdote, man. I met this lady had her cell phone out, and I had to tell her, like, hey, put that away, you know what I mean, in a nice way. But I'm like, you know, because we don't want our background recording as if they know that a car chase is about to happen, right? So I'm like telling this to her. Dude comes over, second AD, and he's like, hey, you know who you're talking to, right? And I'm like, nah, man. I mean, she ain't one of my background. I know that, but I'm going to let her be here if you turn off your phone. You know what I mean? Like that. And then he's like, dude, that's Paul's wife. And I'm like, what? And it didn't register to me, but the director of the movie, Paul Greengrass, was like standing right next to her, right? And like she's like, oh, yeah, that's my husband. And I look, and I'm like, oh, cool, yeah, you can be in the scene too. Because I was so in the zone, I didn't recognize him. I was just like, yeah, you can be in it too. And I turned around and walked away. And then when I heard later who he was, like my buddy ran over. He's like, dude, that was the director, man. You just told his wife off. I'm like, oh. I was like scared, you know. But then the director actually went and told the second AD, like right the top of my department. He told him I did a good job and that he liked how I handled his wife and stuff. I'm like, all right. You know, well, there you go.
There you go.
Pass the test.
Didn't get fired.
Exactly. He's going to ask you to swing with him or something later on. That's awesome.
Wow.
That's cool. So, as far as your multiple roles, what's your favorite? Obviously,
like
you just
what to do on set?
Yeah, on set. Because you're director, actor, assistant, producer, all that stuff. What's your main
I try to
one?
do everything, but like probably directing is, even though it stresses me out like nobody's business, I think directing is my favorite. Acting is a lot of fun, but there's certain elements that are out of my control, like how they edit it and how they frame the shot. Mostly the editing, though. Editing will kill your direction. Like if you see an actor that looks like they kind of aren't that great, let it run through your mind that maybe the editor screwed them, because like I've seen some really great actors get, you know, like if they cut to you too soon, for instance, like it's supposed to be like you get surprised by something. They cut to you like a few frames too soon, and you're just sitting there like, ugh, and it looks ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like, but if they cut to you at the right moment, then it's like convincing, and you know, so that part of acting I'm not too crazy about, because like, you know, I've had times when I'm like, yeah, I nailed that, and then I'll go see the film and I'm like, why'd they show me like while I'm waiting to go? That's like while the guy's saying action.
Yeah.
Why are they showing that? You know?
Yeah.
But with direction, I like being there from beginning to end, the entire process, and then I get to be there in the editing room, you know, making decisions with the editor, making the actors look good, and that stuff is a lot of fun.
Gotcha.
So probably directing is my favorite.
Okay. But you'll never turn down like a call from one of the bureaus and saying, hey, we want you to be extra over here at Treasure Island.
Oh,
what
being
can you
extra
do?
is fun sometimes. Sometimes it's like not, but
Hey, you still get paid, right?
yeah, I'll do it. Yeah, I haven't said no yet.
And you're there all day and you're taken care of.
Yeah.
Free food and everything, right?
Yeah, it's all right. Yeah, you know, the worst was like recently an Xfinity commercial where we were like just supposed to be audience, like, and they wanted it to seem like we just walked up because they're having a fun concert, and we walked up and it, you know, it was torture. They had us out there for like 12 plus hours, the baking sun, no shade anywhere, you know, like waters occasionally, like maybe every like 4 hours you get a water.
What?
And you're just like, oh man, I'm just cooking out here. I got such a bad sunburn. She was mad at me, or I can't point because she's not on camera, but my wife, wherever she may be, she was very upset because, you know, I was getting skin cancer all up in here and stuff, you know. But then other background things are more fun. Like I made Bourne fun, man. Those guys, like all the background, they were like, dude, we love Bo. He's like awesome. I was asking if I could get a third AD credit because I was like telling them where to go. My second AD basically took off the guy who told me like, hey, don't talk to not the cool one, but the other guy. Like he went and I don't know where he went, man. He was gone like most of the time, like for like 35 days of just me telling background where to go. You know what I mean?
That's awesome.
I felt like I should get a better credit than PA.
Hey, your name is on there when the credits roll up. That's all that matters.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's not.
What?
That's the other thing about this industry, man.
Oh,
they chose one PA to represent all the PAs.
That's bullshit.
That's good enough. That's good enough. I'm like, can I get my name in the credits, man?
Oh, my
I was
goodness.
there 35 nights, working 16-plus hour nights and, like, exhausted. Like, we would get home when the sun is already up, try to go to sleep, and then come back before the sun sets and go to work again. And
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it wasn't easy, you know?
They
You know
could
what?
do that okay? They could not give you credit that way?
Yeah, it's up to them. It's kind of like I mean, if I was like union and had some type of arrangement, then they'd have to, but it's really up to their discretion.
Well,
I didn't get in Terminator either. That was my first big movie I worked on.
Well, we're putting them on blast here on the Slam Show. That's for damn sure.
Right.
They know they got to give Bo credit or any other person that's involved. Give them credit.
Yeah.
It's only freaking text. There's not much to
That's
it.
what I'm saying.
Yeah, what's the
man.
harm in that?
Yeah, in my films, I'll give people like credits, like producer credit. If they, like, say somebody came down and brought me some lights that I really needed,
Producer credit.
they instantly are producing something
Thank
that
you.
I needed for my film. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like one of my first film experiences, I was just trying to get in there, you know, and I worked with this lady who I won't even mention her name, but she was a great chick in life, but for some reason when she became a director, she got kind of grumpy. And I brought everything. Like, it was a Bo film. She was directing it, but I brought the lights, the cameras, the sound gear, and I was running it all, one-man band style. Like, I had, like, the sound, like, rigged it up on the camera. I had the lights. I'm moving the lights myself. I'm sitting over here putting the camera, doing the focus. I'm doing everything. I edited it, and it was due in a week, and it was a 20-minute film. So we shot it on one weekend on the Sunday, and then I had to have it edited by Saturday and turn it in.
Gotcha.
Right? And it was, like, super rush job. Like, it was like a boot camp for filmmaking. Yeah, I'm super glad I did it. But I go to her and I'm like, hey, so what do you think about me getting the producer credit? Because, you know, I basically did everything and brought everything, and you know what I mean?
Right.
And she's like, well, I gave a producer credit to the guy who bought Subway sandwiches that one day. He was like $25 of Subway sandwiches. And this other guy recommended the church that we shot at, so I gave him a producer credit. So she's like, but lol, you're not getting a producer credit because usually producers produce either money, food, or locations, right?
Not
And
effort.
I'm
Effort
like,
didn't amount.
Dude, I produced everything else.
Wow.
Yeah, so anyway.
What's the difference between a producer and an executive producer?
Oh, okay. This is a commonly asked question that has a weird answer because like nobody really knows, I don't think. But
Well, to me,
essentially-
the executive is the one that funds everything.
usually so.
Yeah.
Yeah. But sometimes an executive producer could be somebody who just put their name on it. Like it was Quentin Tarantino. He might not have anything to do with the film, but he's just like, oh yeah, whatever. Here,
I'll put my name,
on
it's
it.
gonna
And
sell.
he's executive producer, you know, or usually like producer. It's weird because producer often will be the one who's more responsible for the movie than the executive producer. Like producer is the guy who or woman who runs around making things happen, making sure that the people are where they need to be. You know, like the crew is accounted for. You know, so you get there on the day and you're not stuck without something that you actually need, and then everybody wasted their time. So producers are usually the ones running around. Executive producer, a lot of times, is somebody who either wrote a check or just in some way is lending their name or some type of, you know, like that. But a lot of people look at it and they go, executive producer, oh, that must be the one who's really responsible for everything. No, not usually.
Not
Yeah.
at all. Not at all. Gee, throw something at Bo real quick.
When you said you like directing a lot, right?
Yeah.
That's your favorite. Do you like directing more feature-length films or short films?
I actually haven't directed a feature yet.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I've worked all over features, but I haven't been the director yet. And that's the thing that I want to do in 2017. And I finally assembled this dream team. Like, I have every department covered. Look at this guy raising his hand.
Am
You're
I
in there,
part of
man.
this
You-
dream
yeah,
team?
you'll be in there, for
Okay,
sure.
okay. Let me
Yeah.
know. I want to know in advance.
I think you got producer under your skin, man, because like this guy was coming up with locations and all this kind of stuff for us on the recent. We did a 10-day film race just last week, and oh, by the way, that's going to be screening. Can I say that?
Yes.
The 10-day film we made is a 10-day film race, and it's going to be screened in the IMAX theater in Sacramento, Esquire IMAX theater, September 11, 6 p.m.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's like it's part of a block of like a bunch of other people who did the same challenge. We're going to be facing off and seeing who wins.
Oh.
So, you know what I mean? So if you want to go down there and check out my film or somebody else's, you know what I mean? But as long as you vote for me, that's what's up.
There you go. There you go. That's what's up.
That's what's up. That's what's up.
So with your short films, what do you like to? What genre do you like to do? I heard a little bit about
That's a
something
weird
you play
question
with.
for me because I dabble, man. I jump all over the place. Like,
Yeah.
like how you said earlier, how you try to find your voice in the
Right,
spoken
right.
word. The same thing with making movies. Like, I'll try making movies that, even going into the project, I'm like, this isn't really my type of movie. I probably wouldn't buy tickets to see this, but I'm gonna do my best to make this movie enjoyable, where people will actually want to watch it. And so far, you know, from what I hear, I've done all right. But I've dabbled. Mostly, you know what, the horror fans are the most supportive fans for some reason. I don't know why it is, but they just like, they'll share your film more than other genres. Like, if you come out with a drama, good luck. If you get one person to share it who isn't an actor in it, congratulations, you've really succeeded, because I don't know what it is, but I guess it's just like it's not that viral type of thing. Like, if you see a good drama, do you ever really share it? Not really, right? But if you see some lady like hanging from hooks and you know, getting chopped in half and stuff like that. You might, I mean, if you're that type of person, you might you might share something like that. Or if like there's a crazy kung fu scene, or you know, comedy, really funny comedy, that stuff gets shared like crazy. But yeah.
So anti-hero is, what would you categorize that in?
It's kind of like action comedy somewhat. Yeah, I guess. Action comedy. Oh, I'd say.
There you go. There you go. See, G got it stuck in his head because he's gonna go YouTube and just kick back and relax and watch it, soak it in. Anti-hero.
Yeah, please.
I like the name, man.
Yeah, we're actually working on a feature story for it that we should shoot. It'll probably be my second feature, because I think it's gonna have a lot of like budget intensive kind of like, you know, big production value kind of stuff that we want to maybe launch our first feature off of like a little bit more indie, and then hopefully, you know, the plan anyway is to build the following and build the resources to really kill the second one.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And obviously, I want to roll. And if you have any jujitsu, martial art need, G's here, ready to go, or whatever role.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, you're down for anything, right?
I'm down, yeah.
You definitely have a good look, man.
Oh, well, I'll be on camera. I've dabbled in acting a little bit, so.
Anything online
for
I
fun.
can check out?
No, it's just for fun.
I want to see your spoken word too. Is there anywhere online?
Oh,
maybe. There might be something.
Let's go ahead and roll into that, the poem that you.
Oh, word.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yes.
This is G doing the poem.
And this one is on the page. I wrote this not too long ago. I was just like really. I've been thinking a lot about what it takes to raise, a daughter and a boy of color here in the United States these days, and especially with all the craziness that's going on and so forth. What's it gonna take for them? What do I have to do? So this is like a letter to my son Davao. I'm reading it from the page. Dear Davao Paulo, my son, name invoked from the moral warriors, warrior intellectuals, warrior poets. But I have to be honest, I don't know if it will slow down the target that will be placed upon your back, your front. I'm sorry. I don't want to stunt your growth by limiting your curiosity, your emerging identity, your imagination, but this nation has shown time and time again that the value of your body, your life depends on what? I'm not sure. That you keep your hands out of your pocket, your mouth lock it, your foot stop it, your eye drop it. Back in the 60s, Baldwin started his letter to James 5 times, tore it up 5 times. It's insane. How do you tell your own nephew about the storm raging about his head, resulting in countless men shot dead? I dread, maybe we are all dread, Scott, and it don't stop. Coates dropped his letter to his son as the sun set on Eric Garner, Tamir Rice. These names now join the sacrifices made by Philando Castile, Alton Sterling. So again, we see from this unfurling that plunder has turned into habit and addiction. This is not fiction. Their fuel to the fire that is supposed to be the next time must now be this time. I'm sorry. This world that you inherit needs you to be great, and that can cause me to hold fear. Instead, I hold you tighter as you sit on my lap. Right now, even as I write this, I wish my hundreds of kisses that I coat you with daily could act like armor, allowing your beautiful smile, your infectious laugh, your jubilous jumping, your magnificent mind to endure with dreams pure, untainted by history. I'm sorry, because without hesitation, instead I have to prep for your preparations, or perhaps I have been preparing all my life, learning to love myself so that I can love you more, to train my tongue for eloquence, for precision, for connection, to be a vehicle that reveals the sophistication of a mind that was never intended to find its path to self-actualize, that was supposed to not realize the need to read, to not want to right the wrongs that have been normalized. But even then, I'm still learning. I'm told constantly that I have a place, no matter what I've done. I'm sorry. Or maybe I'm not. I'm not sorry that I expect greatness of you. Your success will not be a surprise. I will never call you articulate as if you weren't supposed to be. And even then, you might argue or explain or describe something articulately, but you are not articulate. You are Davao, Paulo, Cermeño, Reyes. I see you bouncing your head even as I say this, because perhaps in your ancestral genes, you know that being a contributing member to society is not enough. because that would mean that you accept the plunder that has been made habit, that has become tradition. No, that is not acceptable. And so I love you each day as if there is no tomorrow. And the greatness I expect of you is not about the pressure to become a manifestation of the myth that you can become anything you want. I don't expect you to be the best in your class. I expect you to become the best you, equipped with the heart, knowledge, wisdom, voice, tools, the courage to fight for that right to become your most authentic you. And along that fight, know that I am alongside you, no matter what. And for that, I'm not sorry. I love you, my son.
That's deep. I'm
Yeah.
taken back. Taken back, man.
It was hard for me to write and even to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, Bo, magnificent.
Yeah, I love that part about you. You are not articulate. You are you. You know what I mean? Like the way,
Yeah.
like.
Yeah, I spoke once at a fundraiser, and some guy came up to me, some older dude, and he said like, "Oh, you're so articulate," and I was like, "I could read too, actually."
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like as if I'm not supposed to be articulate. I don't know how many times like folks have told like young people of color like, "Oh, you're so articulate," like they're not supposed to be.
Interesting. Golly, it's amazing. This is all amazing, and I'm just taken back. I'm just so taken back from your effort here. Your son is going to be proud of Dad when the day comes, because this is going to be archived forever. As long as there's some type of uploaded video playback, he will eventually see this.
Nice. Well,
And I'll make sure of that. And
all
I'll
right
also
then.
give you a copy.
Oh, cool.
Perfect.
That's what's up.
All right, gentlemen, let's go ahead and close out the program with our shouts and plugs, where we could go ahead and say our best wishes and social media stuff, starting with you, Bo. Who do you want to give a shout out? Obviously, the wifey here, but
Oh yeah.
social
April
media,
Campbell.
companies, whatever.
Yeah, my wife of 17 years, April Campbell. Yeah, we've been together forever, and she's always there. You know, like you said earlier, everything I do, she's right there.
That's
you know,
right.
helping me out,
That's right.
backing
That's
me
why
up.
I felt, oh my God, April's going to come no matter what.
Yeah, and then people tell me, you know what? I hear a lot. They're like, "Oh, you're doing so much. You're doing this and you're doing that." Like, when do you sleep? In the car, honestly, while she's driving me to places. You know what I mean? So like, I wouldn't be able to do that otherwise. You know.
Ride or die
And,
chick.
Yeah, it really, it makes a huge difference. And yeah, I mean, as far as places you said plugs, like things coming up or whatever.
Yeah.
The September 11th thing I mentioned, which is on 6 p.m. at the Esquire IMAX Theater. You can buy those tickets online. Look for 10 by 10 Sacramento Film Fest, because it's part of that. Also, that same day in the exact same IMAX Theater, just by coincidence, is the second film that I ever did audio for. It's a feature film called Mama Boy, and it's got Gary Busey and like some other people in it. And if you go to one, you might as well go to the other.
That's
There's
amazing.
Maybe a little hour gap right in between the two, so you can go out and we can get some eats and drinks and whatever.
Pancakes.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
And social media, eHarmony, Match.com handles, what?
Oh, right? Yeah.
I'm sorry, it was just a joke,
Yeah,
April.
the wife handles that stuff for me, too. Yeah, she's my screener. No, but what you got? What do you want, the URL, I guess?
No,
On
no.
Facebook, just find me Bo Campbell. It's B-O, and then Campbell like soup, Camp and Bell together.
Or just Google you and everything will come up.
And, yeah, maybe.
Unless there's a whole bunch of Bo Campbells.
Yeah, and then I'm often called the one with the gun. The spelling is complicated, but if you find that, then that's probably me too.
Sounds good.
Not a fan of, I'm not a violent guy or anything, but I just like how it sounds.
Yeah. I that's your little niche.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Bo. Appreciate it. And G, take it away.
All right, I just want to give it up to all the teachers I work with in the past and the present. Most recently, the folks at Mills College. Of course, all the folks at Stanford.
Mills
and
College,
Yeah,
what's up?
Mills, what's what? All the folks from all the schools that I work with. Madison Park, Rise High School, who holds my heart. Watts Learning Center, Bridges Academy, where my wife teaches. My daughter goes to Melrose Leadership Academy with some OG folks out there. And then just all my youngsters who are doing really good work in their community these days. Much love to y'all. Much love to Team Silva. Much love to Marco the Four Ways. Word.
Any social media handles or anything, or just?
I don't really have anything like that. Even if you Google G Reyes or Gerald Reyes, then you get all sorts of folks. So you know.
But if they're resourceful enough, they'll find you.
Yeah.
If they really need you,
You'll figure out which one is me.
There you go. Give them a little challenge. Unlike me, where they could just type in Slam and Sam and boom.
Yeah.
There's only one competitor. It's this guy over in New Jersey that took the nickname, and yeah, that's a copyright situation I have to work with at a later date. So, all right, I'll go ahead and close out the shouts and plugs. First off, I want to thank my main man assistant here, Rock Rage, Alex, that makes everything happen on the camera views and all the good stuff behind the scenes. Without him, I would just be a stress ball right now trying to handle all that. April, that's in our studio audience, that's playing some type of game, being very connected with the program. Thank you for being patient. And, just being that great wifey that she is, supporting the main man. Bo Campbell, thank you, sir, on such short notice to be able to come on the program. We could hear more about your other endeavors at a later date when it's like a little bit more meatier as far as our time situation. But thank you very, very much for coming through and helping out. Gerald, you were the man. You came through, flying colors, and not that I doubted that you weren't going to show. It was just more like I said, protocol. Hit me up, confirm, and I'd be more relaxed because I'll be scrambling around trying to figure out what the fuck am I going to freaking take his place. But you're here. Your entire life story has been incredible, and I wish you nothing more but greater success on all levels within the community, within your family, and just you as a person. We need to hang out more. I think there's a lot of stuff that we could expand on, have a lot of growth on all levels, and I'm just excited to see what the future holds as far as everything that you're going to put forth.
Word. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's been my humble pleasure to be here, and I'm honored to be, with both y'all and all the rest of the folks out here. So thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And obviously, everyone that's supporting the Slam Show, from all of our affiliates, all of our sponsors, thank you very much for all your support. Lady Sage, the wifey, and all of our co-hosts that have been rotating. I love you all. And yes, definitely let's keep everything going on a positive level. And you're going to get all sorts of good content here on the Slam Show. All right, for myself and everyone here, we'll see you next time.
Yee.
Peace.